Good evening, everyone. Just to give outline of the plan for this evening. And so it's being the full moon of December by our monastic calendar. This is our Lunar Observance Day. On those nights we usually have a talk. So after we do the chanting and meditation, there'll be a talk. And then we'll wrap up certainly no later than 9:30. However, before the talk, there's the opportunity for members of the lay community, if they wish, to request the 3 refuges and 8 precepts just for the evening. You can then determine just to hold those for the evening until dawn. But that's a request, and it needs to come from you all. So, have we been doing this the last few weeks?
I invited, there's no request.
But that's the way it works. So Ajahn Krunago said he's invited people and it's happened also. So it's an opportunity, and so if nobody requests, then it doesn't happen, and that's fine. It's really up to you, and as long as there's even just one person doing that, but people that feel they want to do that. So I'll just pause in silence. I'll say something saying now's the time. And if something happens, something happens. If nothing happens, nothing happens. So no problem. And so then we'll just continue the evening. And then after that, after the talk, we'll be inviting everybody, all the members of the lay community, just the bhikkhus, the monks will stay to do the full moon recitation of the monastic code. And that needs to be done in private. That'll be done in private. And then the novices and anagaricals will come in after that, so the hall won't be available for anybody else during that period. If you want to continue to practice, you're very welcome to use the shrine room in the house. So you're very welcome to do that. So, okay, and I've invited Samanera Vipassiko to lead us in the chanting this evening. So.
Good evening, everyone. Let's do the evening chanting in Pali, which is in volume 1, starting on page 18. Yo so bhagavatam samma sambuddho swakato yena bhagavata dhammo supatipanno yassa bhagavato savaka sangho dhammayam bhagavantam sadhammam sasangham imehi sakare hiyataraha arobitehi abhipujayama sadhuno bhante bhagavat suchiraparini bhutopi ajima janata lukam pamanasa ime sakare dugatapanya karabhute patikam hatu Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sangham Namami. Pandamayam Buddhasa Bhagavato Bhubhavaganamakarang Karomase. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Andamayam Buddhanusatanayam Karomase. Tango Pana Bhagavata Evam Kalayano Iti Sado Abhugato Iti Piso Bhagava Araham Samma Sambuddho Vijacharana Sampano Sugato Lokavidu Anuttaro Purisa Dhammasarati Sata Deva Manusana Buddho Bhagavati. Andamayam Buddha Vigiting Karomase. Buddha Varahanta Varata Diguna Viyuto Sudha Vijnana Karuna Isamagatato Bodhe Siyo Sujanatam Kamalang Vasuro Vandamaham Kamaranam Sirasa Jinendam Buddho Yosa Bapaninam Saranam Ke Mamutamam Patamanu Satitanam Vandamitam Sirenaham Buddha Sahasamida Soma Buddho Me Samiki Saro Buddho Dukkha Sagata Chavirata Charita Same Buddha Sahagniya Sariram Jiritam Chiram Vandrantoham Charisami Buddha Se Vasubodhitam Nati Me Saranam Ganyam Buddho Me Saranam Varam Etena Satchavajena Vadeyam Satu Sasane Buddham me vandamane nayam punyam pasutam hidam Sabe diyantarayane mahe sumta satejasa. Andamayam Dhammanusatanayam Karomase. Swagato Bhagavata Dhammo Sanditiko Akaliko Ehipasiko Opanayiko Pachatan Veditapo Vinyuhiti. Andamayam Dhamma Vigitim Karomase.
นิดาโสวะธัมโมเมสามิกิสโรธัมโมดุกัสสกตาจาวิลาตาจาริตาสเมธัมมาสาหังนิยาเดนิสรีรังจีวิตังจิตังวันดันโตหังจาริสามิธัมมาเสวสุธัมมทังนาทิเมสารนังกัญญังธัมโมเมสารนังวรังเอเตนะสัจวาเจนะวาเดยังสาธุสาสเนธัมมังเมวันธรรมาเนนะยังปุญญังปัสสุตังปิดาสาเดปิยันตรายาเมมาเอสุงตัสสะเตจัสสะ
หันธมยังสังฆานิเสตเนยังคารมาเสสุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆอุจุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆญาณปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสามีจิปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆญาณิรังจัตตาริปุริสายุกานิอัตถปุริสปุกะละเอสะภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆอาหุเนโยอาหุเนโยดาคิเนโยอัญจลิการณิโยอายุตตรังปุญญาเตตังโลกัสสติหันธมยังสังฆาภิกิติงคารมาเสสัทธัมมโจสุปฏิปันติกุณาดิยุตโตโยตาวิโดอริยปุกขสังฆเสโตศีลาดิธัมมภวราสายกายจิตโตวันนามหังธรรมริยานากานังสุสุนังสังโฆโยสาวปานินังสารนังเกมมุตตมังทัตติยายุสติทานังวันดาวิตังสิเรนะหังสังฆาสาหัสมิดาโสวะสังโฆเมสามิกิสโรสังโฆดุกัสสกตาจาวิลาตาจาริตาสเมสังฆาสาหังนิยาเดมิสรีรังจีวิตังจิตังวันดันโตหังจาริสามิสังฆาโสปฏิปานตังนาทิเมสารนังกัญญังสังโฆเมสารนังวรังเอเทนะสัจวาเจนะวาเดยังสาธุสาสเนสังฆังเมวันธรรมาเนนะยังปุญญังปัสสุตังหิดาสาเวปิยันตรายาเมมาเอสุงตัสสะเตจัสสะ
So, as I mentioned at the beginning of the evening, I'll just pause for a few moments so that if anyone either is staying here in the monastery or visiting for the evening wishes to request the 3 refuges and 8 precepts, that begins on page 131 in the dark brown volume, the same volume of the book that we used earlier this evening. And the form begins with bowing 3 times, but as I said, if nobody wants to do that, then that's absolutely fine. But it's just offering an opportunity. And then if it is going to happen, the form that we use is the first set of for a group from a monk. So it's the Mayang Bante Tisaranena Saha. So I'll just pause and see what happens. So repeat after me after I chant 3 times. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Repeat after me line by line. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tisarana gamanang nittitang. And so we'll do the precepts in Pali and English. I'll do Pali, you do Pali, then I'll do English, you do English. So, Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from taking the life of any living creature. Adinnadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from taking that which is not given. Abrahmacharya veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from any intentional sexual activity. Musavada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from lying. Sura me raya maja pamadatana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from consuming intoxicating drink and drugs that lead to carelessness. Vikala bhojana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from eating at inappropriate times. Nacha gita vadita visukadasana mala ganda vilepana dharana mandana vibhusanatana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from entertainment, beautification, and adornment. Ucca sayana mahasayana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from lying on a high or luxurious sleeping place. Imani atta sikkhapadani samadhiyami. Yemani atta sikkhapadani silena sugatinyanti silena bhoga sampada silena nibbodhinyanti tasama silang visotaye. This ancient tradition of members of the lay community determining these precepts on the lunar, either lunar large moons or maybe the lunar quarters, to practice in that way for that period, or to sustain it for as long as you wish. It's up to you, but we, if possible, try to sustain at least till the morning. And and so people that are staying here in the monastery, just as a reminder, you're living on these anyway, whether you join in with the chanting or not. That's what happens. That's what's happening. And so it's a good reminder. So very good. Okay, so we can continue with the evening now.
Chalo
vahate rajesu dhamma kadam kadetu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang Dhammang Sanghang Namasami. So full moon of December by our monastic calendar, which doesn't always line up with what's published in the newspaper, or because it's a very ancient way that our tradition calculates the lunar cycles. And it's generally spot on, but sometimes there's a day out. So, and we very much follow the lunar calendar. In this monastery, we're functioning off two calendars, lunar and solar. So we have certain things that happen every Sunday night and certain things that happen every lunar quarter. So it's a sort of hybrid. So it keeps us pretty mindful. You can't just take it for granted that everything happens on the same day each week. And so, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the ancient tradition of coming together, and not just the monastic community, but also communities that our communities tend to be completely wide open in terms of members of the lay community, either coming to stay or coming to visit and practice with us. And these lunar quarters are, the way we follow it here is that that's the night that we have our Dhamma Talk. So some monasteries choose to have the Dhamma Talk on a certain day of the week, and so it's really up to us. But the most important thing, regardless of what calendar we're following, is to take advantage of opportunities. And that's the most important thing, and not to get caught up in whether one tradition is the right way or wrong way, but what are we doing with the opportunities that we do have at hand? And many of us were here earlier this afternoon at 4:30, speaking of opportunities. Newly gone forth Samana Vipassiko, who led us in the chanting tonight, and had his seminar or novice ceremony, going forth ceremony. And this is a very significant deepening of our practice within the monastic form. It's a very significant in the way that, in the sense that we give up the right to use money while we're in that form. So, and we don't take lifetime vows. So, but whilst we're in this monastic form of the brown robes, so the siladhara, the nuns in the brown robes, or the monks, we don't handle or use money, and that's significant. We really truly are living on alms, and the fact that we're not allowed to ask directly for things means that it's a big deal. It's a big change, and also changing in from the white clothing into the brown clothing. It's a big difference. And so, certainly, we all wish Samana Vipassiko well as he deepens his practice. So, and it's an opportunity. This is a word I'm going to probably use quite a lot this evening. This word opportunity, and to encourage all of us to utilize wholesome opportunities and to stay away from unwholesome opportunities. Because in life, as we know, we're presented with so many different options and choices. And I know certainly for myself, in my younger life, I followed a certain amount of unwholesome opportunities and got caught up in things which were better to not do. And I learned the hard way, like a lot of us. And then I started being presented with more wholesome opportunities, and in particular, this spiritual practice. 10 years as a layperson, and then took up the monastic life, and so. Just about less than 48 hours ago, I returned from being away in Asia for 1 month. And apart from about 4 or 5 days in Singapore, the rest of my time was in Thailand, which is where our lineage comes from. The Thai forest tradition is how we identify, and our lineage, the lineage of Ajahn Chah, greatly respected, deeply respected monk who passed away some almost 32 years ago. And yesterday morning, after I arrived back, flight landed at about 5:30 in the morning, and there's an elder who has been visiting this country for a very short while, Lumpur Piek, and he hasn't been to this country since 1999, and he's one of the senior disciples of Lumpur Cha, Ajahn Chah, and unfortunately, because of something that's happened, he needs to go back early. He was originally scheduled to come and see us tomorrow, offer a talk, and he's had to cancel that, rightly so. What's come up is very important, and so, but I was offered the opportunity, because he was staying very near the airport, I was offered the opportunity to come directly from the airport and pay respects to him. And so, opportunity to connect and to meet somebody I'd only met briefly once a year ago, very briefly, in a very more informal setting. And so I got this news while I was in transit in Singapore airport, and just minutes before getting on the flight, I was making a call, calling somebody back who had tried to contact me from England to offer me this. And so I then quickly got on the phone to Ajahn Kachana here, and said, look, whatever car is coming to pick me up, there's 3 empty seats if any of the monks want to come along, please invite them. So it was, so 4 of us monastics had this chance, this opportunity to go very early in the morning, pay respects to Lumpur Piek, and also the 2 monks traveling with him are both senior monks, and then spent some time speaking with Lumpur Piek, and then having breakfast with him. Then he needed to go swiftly to Amravati. And so one of the reason I'm mentioning this is that one of the questions he asked was, why did it, because he was explaining to him that I was just coming off an airplane from Thailand. And one of his questions was, why did I go to Thailand? Why did you go? And so I said, to pay respects to elders, and to connect also with monks at Wat Pananachat, in particular as a community, and also Wat Ratanawan, which is one of our other monasteries where many of us have lived, several of us, and where I lived for a year in Thailand 6 years ago. And then I said to also not just maintain our connection with our lineage, but to deepen the connections, because of this we're part of a big family. The Ajahn Chah lineage has more than 300 branch monasteries, and it's constantly growing. There was only 60 branch monasteries when Lumpur Cha died. So now there's more than 300. Why? Well, because of his teachings, and his standard of conduct that he passed down to us is so high and so respected that people want to be associated with such good conduct. And so the trip that I made was, as I pointed out to the community before I left, it wasn't me personal. The time in Singapore was personal. I was invited to offer a few teachings there, connect with the Dhamma groups there. But apart from that, it was entirely, I was representing the Cittaviveka, the Chithurst Buddhist monastery community. And I mentioned that to several of the elders that I did get a chance to pay respects to. I said, I'm paying respects, representing, this is on behalf of Cittaviveka community. They care. They care about us. They know about us. Particular Chithurst, for people in the Ajahn Chah lineage, Chithurst is exceptionally important because it's the only monastery that Ajahn Chah visited in the West, in our lineage. It was the only one that existed. So this is Western branch number 1, and it was the only one that had opened when Lumpur Cha was still alive and active. And so it means a lot to them. And when people from our tradition, not just monks and nuns, but lay people, when they come to England, they usually make a point of coming to visit here. But what do we do with that? Is this just a tradition of going around paying respects to people and visiting places? And I would suggest, no, that's not what it's all about. But it's one aspect. And it's to use these opportunities, and as I said, I'm going to intentionally use that word a lot this evening, and to use these experiences as fuel for practice, as fuel. Otherwise, if it's just empty going around visiting places, visiting people, without utilizing these experiences as an uplift, as a reminder. It's like every time we come into a hall or a room where we're going to be staying for at least a few minutes. For instance, especially for the monastic community, we bow. We bow to the Buddha Rupa in the room. And if that just becomes an empty gesture, if we're just sort of, getting down and doing 3 quick bows without considering, well, why, what is this? What are we actually bowing to? If it's just, I'm supposed to bow when I come in the room, then we're losing an opportunity. We're losing that opportunity to actually, develop develop the heart, develop the mind, to let go. And so if our mind is really present when we come in and bow 3 times. Why 3 times? Well, you can think of it in different ways, but I would say the primary way is Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. So bowing to, not just the Buddha out of respect, but also to bow the way I've learned and the way I like to think about it, bowing to that in each and every one of us, each and every human being, that ability to wake up to goodness, to wake up and to reality, to the reality of impermanence, the reality of how unsatisfactory the conditioned world is, the reality of the emptiness, the sort of non-essence of things that we tend to attach to. We can attach to bodies, we can attach to things, we can attach to experiences, but they're all creations, and they're all impermanent. And so, if we hold on to things too strongly or incorrectly, then we suffer. And so the Buddha really means to wake up to seeing those things. That's one way of considering it. And that second bow to the Dhamma, to bow, as I was saying earlier this afternoon, is Dhamma is the Buddha's teachings, but also to bow to reality, to bow to those things that I was just pointing to, that awakened state of reality. And then lastly, to bow to the Sangha, to bow not necessarily just to the ordained Sangha, the monastic community, but that unified assembly, unified around goodness, around our striving for this ultimate peace, using community, using coming together in ways that are wholesome and that are uplifting and supportive of this development of our hearts and minds. So using those opportunities. So instead of just mindlessly going about these things, and so how are we using our time, whether we're living in a monastery or outside the monastery? How are we using our time? So there's that lovely chant that we do on the 10 subjects for recollection. And one of them is, the days and nights are relentlessly passing, how well am I spending my time? And so these are reflections, they're a set of questions. And so that's a question. So, okay, the days and nights, okay, what am I doing with my time? How am I using these chances and experiences and opportunities that come my way, and to reflect on that and to not beat ourselves up if maybe we've maybe wasted a bit of time, but just to see how that feels, not with a super analytical eye, but just, is there a way that I can use my time better? Is there a way that I can use these opportunities that I do have as an individual in a way that's more skillful, more wholesome, and more in line with my aspirations? So for me, using my time in Thailand, it was, I was the fortunate one to go and represent the community, because Thailand is it's a very, for most of us, very interesting, lovely place, very friendly people. The support that we tend to receive there is pretty amazing. And not just, it's not just here that we receive support, but also going to Thailand. And so I had the good fortune of being able to go there and to do these things. But so what do I use with those, or what do I do with those experiences? How am I going to benefit? And more so, how can I benefit the community here from those experiences, because that was really, really the reason for going, and representing. It's not just representing as I pay respects, but it's also to take that food, that nourishment that I received, and I received a lot of encouragement, not just from me as an individual, but there was encouraging me so that I could, to give me, there's this phrase in Thai called Gamlang Jai, which, and I don't speak Thai, I speak very little Thai, but my understanding it's a sort of strength of heart to be able to fulfill the duties and responsibilities that I have here as the abbot of Cittaviveka Monastery. And so, and to also share what I learned, share that uplift, and to come back, and not just to come back and all of a sudden change things and do things the way they do it at such and such a monastery in Thailand, or such and such a elder encouraged me there. No, that's not it. One considers those things, but we also have, this monastery has been here 44 years, coming up on 45 years. It has, also, because there is flexibility around not so much the Buddha's rules, but around the other, what we call community standards, how you set things up. But it's more to use the spirit of the training, the way I see it, to use that uplift of encouraging intention, wholesome intention, encouraging us to really utilize these practices that we've inherited, and to hopefully let go of the things that are actually binding us, because even in monastic life, we can, because of habit, because of the habit from our life before we became a nun or a monk, our habits, from the past, can, even getting into the monastery, it's quite easy, especially in the beginning, to try and create comfort zones, try to kind of, those habits of getting what we want, because, let's face it, that's kind of what we're taught, from when we're just little kids. We're taught, get what you want, live the way you want, and typically we're taught to at least get things that are not harmful to ourselves or others. But that habit of when I didn't become a monastic until I was in my 40s. I was 42 years old, so that was many years, and I was living on my own since the age of 17. I was living on my own, and so that was a lot of years of having the opportunity to get what I wanted. And then all of a sudden you put yourself in a form where it's very narrowed. But even within that form, we can still find ourselves, and this is not a criticism, because it's here again, it's something, our conditioning, where we can find ourselves maybe at least thinking about getting what we want, which is completely natural. But within this container, and I do like to use this word container, is it because of our precepts and because of our communal standards and communal rules that are sort of on top of the Buddha's rules, we bump up against the side of the container. These are like also our speed bumps. I like to recognize, oops, all right, that's not quite the way we do it here. Especially the more precepts we pick up, the less options we have. So, for instance, the bhikkhus, like we're not allowed to cook, we're not allowed to even pick up any consumable apart from tap water. Any consumable that there is, we're not allowed to pick that up unless it's offered into the hand of at least one monk, received by another monk. And so in terms of like getting food, so we're not allowed to go to the kitchen and make hints at what the kitchen should cook, so we don't kind of go around, oh yeah, that pasta dish you made last week was really good. I'm not asking for it, by the way. But then people think, oh yeah, they like that one, I'll cook that one for them. And so we're not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to go and ask for things unless we're asking on behalf of another sick monastic. Then there is a provision for that. And so this is what we bump up against. This is just one small aspect. And and so you could think, well, what does that teach us? What is that? Well, it could teach a lot of things. One is, I'll just mention a few, is restraint. To restrain. And restraint is not a word here again. As I was mentioning this afternoon, for those of you who are here, I grew up in San Francisco Bay Area in the 1960s and 70s when restraint was not encouraged. It was all the summer of love and the whole hippie movement and drug era and I grew up kind of amidst that, in a very very much in the middle of it. And the word restraint wasn't used, but then restraining, that it's just holding back. It's not a suppression. It's not meant to be suppressing or repressing any of these things, but it's a full recognition of urges or desires, but then restraining from acting on that. And that's where the precepts are this great tool. It's like, okay, no, restraint. It's wholesome to restrain from doing things that are either unwholesome or unuseful, or just developing, following desires that just keep binding us to stress and discontent. So with monastic life, it really is one of the aspects is, developing contentment with little, contentment with what's offered, and so that's why, these rules. I really appreciate these rules around not hinting and asking for things, especially from the kitchen, but not just that. Other requisites are just unless we've been invited to live with what's freely offered, and to be accepting of whatever quality is offered. So whether it's high quality or low quality, it's good to develop that. This is good enough attitude. This is good enough, what's offered. And as you can see, this monastery is incredibly well supported. Just look at everything has been offered. Everything we see or touch here has been freely offered. We don't do fundraising. We don't ask. People want to support this monastery, this way of life, and this place. As I mentioned earlier, it's open to. The only time we've ever closed was during the lockdowns, when we were by government decree. That felt very strange, because our tradition is one of openness and sharing. And so for us who have come here to live, also even just to come and stay as a guest, guests are also not supposed to ask, for certain dishes or certain, special things, just to develop this heart and mind of contentment over what is being offered, and it's amazing what we're offered. It might not be what we're used to, but it's amazing. And so these are just, mentioning some of the opportunities that we have here. So soon we're about to enter our winter retreat, a 3-month period, which will begin on the early in the morning on the 6th of January. And so we'll begin with a 7-day period of all-day group practice, which will also include Dhamma reflection each morning at 8:30 in the morning. And if you're living nearby or staying nearby, everybody is welcome to come from the outside. We're not closed, and so people have that opportunity to tap in and into what we're doing here. As per usual, just because we're on retreat doesn't mean we're closed. We're certainly not. Still open. The only thing that changes is that we won't have short-term lay guests. We'll have just long-term lay guests as a support team for us. It's up to us. It's really up to us. And earlier this evening I was talking in the ordination ceremony in the Papaja that one of the last things that's done is the candidate takes dependence on the teacher. So they are dependent, not independent. So this is a tradition of dependency. We're dependent upon the kindness and generosity of the lay community. And as when we're junior, we're dependent on our teacher. And so it's a mutual dependency in the sense that my responsibility as preceptor and abbot is to make sure as best of my abilities to see that the four requisites of food, medicine, lodgings, and clothing are provided. That there's enough, as much as I can do that, and that, also the spiritual and well-being and physical also. If one of the monastics is ill, to make sure that they're getting the medicine and the medical care that's available. And so there's that responsibility, and then the responsibility for the juniors to also support the teacher and by assisting and helping out, and also making ourselves, when we're junior especially, making ourselves trainable, which might sound like, look, are we dogs? Are we horses? Or are we human beings? But no, and that's not saying that. But what it's saying is to make ourselves open to receiving the training handed down by the Buddha. They received the training handed down by Lumpur Cha, Lumpur Sumedho, Lumpur Sujito, Ajahn Krunako, and that's the sort of lineage through this monastery, to make ourselves open to learning and it's not easy. It's not easy, and it's sometimes it feels easy, sometimes it's not easy. It ebbs and flows. It goes up and down, and it's not simple, and it's not just an easy ride. Monastic life can be challenging, and from the outside it can look pretty easy, but to live with this much restraint, this much developing composure, developing all of these things, and it can really expose a lot of our inner world, which is really what it should do, because that's where we suffer. Other people can't make us suffer. Other people can make us feel hurt or make us feel happy by what they say or do, but the suffering, the pain is one thing, but that suffering, that non-acceptance, that real turmoil, that inner turmoil, and there's various grades of that, that's up to us. So that phrase in English, which is, I've quoted certainly a lot, and it's really heavily quoted, is in English of pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So that option is up to us. And so if we are feeling discontent, or if we feel hurt by something that's been said or done, we really need to investigate. So, and ask the question: do I want to allow that hurt to morph into suffering? Because life is going to have, this human life, it's going to have every range of emotions and experiences, everything from the most sublime to the most difficult to bear. That's the human package. This is what we're born into, and so no matter how privileged we are, and no matter how much we have materially, or just in terms of privilege or whatever, we're all subject to these things. We're all subject to the blissful and the horrible, the loss of loved ones, the loss of whatever, our health, the bliss of good association, of success. These are the worldly winds, that we are all subject to. And so developing our spiritual life to learn how to experience this range of things and develop the heart and mind that has let go of the suffering aspect, that can actually be with the blissful and be with and without grasping, without clinging to that, to be experiencing the difficult, the painful, without grasping that either, and because pushing away is a form of grasping. And so, and this is the teachings of the Buddhas, to develop this unshakability, this unconditional peace that is possible. It is possible. When you meet people that have realized this, and you read about, what's been handed down, and this is possible for human beings to realize. And so I just offer that. I think that's enough for tonight. And just offer these words of encouragement. Hopefully there's at least something a little bit useful to reflect on. And I'll close there. So. So, samana vipassiko, reflection.
Let's do the verses of sharing and aspiration, which is page 33 of volume 1. Now let us chant the verses of sharing and aspiration.
Through the goodness that arises from my practice, may my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my mother, my father, and my relatives, the sun and the moon, and all virtuous leaders of the world, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth, and the Lord of death, may those who are friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life, may they soon attain the threefold bliss, and realize the deathless, through the goodness that arises from from my practice, and through this act of sharing, may all desires and attachments quickly cease, and all harmful states of mind, until I realize Nibbana in every kind of birth. May I have an upright mind, with mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold, nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. Unsurpassed is the protection of the Dhamma. The solitary Buddha is my noble guide. The Sangha is my supreme support. Through the supreme power of all these, may darkness and delusion be dispelled.
Arahang
Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivadim
Swakato
Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namassami
Supatipanno
Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sangham Namami.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, so for the lay community, the house shrine room is available if you wish to continue to practice. And for the monastic community, obviously the women you've already done your Uposatha Kamma, so okay, have a good evening, or practice, I don't know, wherever, or get some rest. And then for the male community, let's prepare the hall for the Uposatha Kamma. If we could sweep the hall up to the pillar, the far side of these doors here, so that at least the sima is swept, and also the vertical surface of the shrine look like they could use some attention. And this is part of the preparation for the Patimokkha. It's part of the ceremony, and then obviously set up the seating appropriately. Okay, so good. And then we'll aim. It's 17 minutes past 9. If possible, if we could be confessing by 35 past, by 9:35, if we can be confessing, that should give us time to set the hall. If it's too tight, we'll adjust. Yeah, but let's aim for that, to be starting to confess at 9:35, so that we can hopefully start by 22 or 1:45. Okay, good. Okay.